a real growth mindsetter cares what they think of themselves first, then it ripples outward, whereas a fixed mindsetter cares more about what other people think of them, and they become this sort of byproduct of what other people want of them.
Yeah. When it comes to the fear component, because when we really think about the problem with someone who is too set in their ways, one of the problems that you and I have identified is that the fear of failure in their partner's eyes. Conscious couples, business partners, and individuals, welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and relationship expertise to help you consistently cultivate the most magnificent relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges. We'll help you have the courage to be your authentic self, communicate effectively, and constructively resolve conflict.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching, speaking, podcasting, and hosting live events with conscious couples all over the world, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to another very special episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. Today we have episode 212. We are cranking. Is your partner too set in their ways? So this is going to be an event recap. Before I jump into this episode, I want to remind everyone why we are here. We are here for one reason and one reason only: to improve your intimate relationship from the inside out. If you are here to feel good rather than get better, this is not the podcast for you. Before we jump into this episode, my love, event recap. You did the slides. You crushed it. Thank you to everyone who came, by the way. Ladies first, what is your intention?
My intention is to have anyone that listens to this podcast realize that no matter how set in your ways you or your partner is or ends up being, there's always a step out of that. And for conscious couples who want to grow together, not apart, neuroplasticity is on your side.
Yes. Neuroplasticity, there are functional, chemical, and structural changes that the brain makes, unfortunately, through pain and discomfort. I watched a TED Talk. I've been watching neuroscience TED Talks first thing in the morning, several days in a row now. Huge fan. And it basically says the brain doesn't change without some discomfort and pain. But anyways, okay, so you have something called Evolve Movie Club. The link to register for Evolve Movie Club, Conscious Couples, will be in the show notes. I go, and I have not missed.
You haven't.
I have been late a couple times,
So sweet.
but I've never missed. So the most consistent Evolve Movie Club member, I'm just saying, if you guys want to give me a trophy or whatever, it's entirely up to you.
We actually have them 3D printed, and they're coming to you soon.
Nice. Wow.
The reason why you're mentioning that is because inside Evolve Movie Club, we saw not only Inside Out 1, but Inside Out 2.
Yes.
And we had very much not only adored that as a community, but Alan and I feel very deeply that it is an absolute essential for every conscious couple.
Yes.
As a film to watch together, because not only are there so many things in terms of how much science has been actually cultivated. I believe it took the scientists 10 years to really make sure that it was scientifically accurate.
Really?
Yeah.
This is the cool part about Evolve Movie Club. Emilia goes into the deep research of the production.
Yeah.
And so they consulted with some really high-level scientists and researchers for this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give all of you an impression right now. So if you're on YouTube, if you're listening not on YouTube, I will try to give you a play-by-play. But
what a special treat.
This right here, I'm giving an impersonation of Emilia during Inside Out 2. And normally in the theater, like her and I,
Feet up,
I love film.
chilling.
I've brought her to the movies many times on a date. And this time, there was no snugs. It was just, shh. She just turned and was like, stop talking. I've never seen her more focused on a film in my life. It was unbelievable to see because you could not believe that this was in the world. Now, I realize we are overselling it, okay? But We're not talking about the movie from an entertainment value.
No.
It is entertaining, and I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
Particularly Inside Out 2. There's a character named Riley who hits puberty. Puberty. And basically the emotions evolve. And the original emotions are joy, anger, fear, disgust, and sadness. And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of other ones. Envy, anxiety.
Ennui. Embarrassment. Nostalgia makes an appearance.
Nice job. Nostalgia. That's so cute. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the reason to watch this film is not for entertainment, but for your intimate relationship. Emotional intelligence.
Yes.
The best film, true or false, to learn about emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So stamp of approval, conscious couples. But the point of this is at the end, and so in the Relationship Talks virtual event, we showed 4 clips from this film. You did. You showed 4 clips from the film. And basically what happened is there's this self-concept identity tree. And yes, spoiler alert, but essentially what happens is there's all these core memories that Joy in the beginning of the film starts cranking to the back of the mind. Basically, Joy is deciphering for Riley, the character, what core memories should be part of her identity and what ones shouldn't. So she's like, what we do is we forget these ones like they never happened. So she got an F on a test. Let's forget that existed. So sweep it under the rug.
Flush the rest.
Yes, flush the rest or something like that.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is anxiety comes in and tries to get her to be friends with the popular girls and starts to worry about the future of if we don't get on the hockey team, then we're going to be massive failures. Nobody's going to like us. We're going to die alone. And it goes down this really intense sort of, I was being playful, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And by the end, Riley, all this comes to a head. There's an emotional flooding of core memories and anxiety. She has an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to describe that.
The anxiety attack?
Yeah, in the film.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the anxiety attack essentially is in this film, there's a console that essentially is like the driver's seat of Riley, this character. And in all of our intimate relationships, we have that quote unquote driver's seat in our mind. And anxiety is that emotion that it's gradual, it comes on, and then it slowly goes away. And Riley, this character, she has an anxiety attack because overall she's going through puberty, and some of her friends are going to different schools. Some of her friends are even going to different hockey camps, I believe, or whatnot, sports. So anyways, she's literally changing so much in such a short amount of time, and anxiety is there as an emotion to make sure that she fits in. And essentially the console, what you see, there's a visual that is just an absolute tornado, which is anxiety just glitching out. We're just trying to help Riley, and yet Riley has zero ability to really work through and cope with the anxiety that she's experiencing.
So Riley ends up trying to get 3 goals to get on the good team, the varsity team.
Yeah.
And she's so freaking out that she might not get the 3 goals that she ends up actually getting a penalty, hurting one of her other friends on the hockey rink. And she gets in the penalty box and she starts to freak out because she's not in alignment with who she wants to be anymore. Right. She doesn't know who she is. She's freaking out. And all the core memories flood. And then essentially, this is the scene that was the kicker for the event. Anxiety had created a self-concept that was, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Okay? Joy and the rest of the emotions rip that one out. And they try to put the old one of, I'm a good person.
Yeah, which is what we refer to in the event as a belief tree, which we can get into.
Essentially, your core memories and what they mean create this self-concept and this identity tree. And the part that I loved about the film, my favorite part, was when they ripped out the old identity because Joy realized that wasn't working either.
Yeah.
And then all the core memories at once created a new identity tree of I'm not good enough, and I'm a good person, and sometimes I struggle, and I'm really smart, and sometimes I'm dumb.
Yeah.
And it was this really cool amalgamation of all of her memories at once. And the point of this for this event is that for you out there listening or watching, you might have a partner who's too fixed in their ways because they have this old identity that they're hanging on to, and that might be holding back the relationship.
Yeah, it actually is. I'll just be straight with you.
Okay.
It's holding back the relationship. And one of the biggest things that we find with individuals and couples is, and if you've been a long time listener, this is something that we hint to, we refer to often. There's usually one partner that's always trying to get the other partner to grow in a conscious relationship. And then there's the other partner that's literally too terrified to grow. And it's just an unconscious thing because they have a self-concept or a core identity or a core belief about themselves. And that's that belief tree that not only are they not good enough, but then fear comes in. What if they're not good enough for their partner? So if you are experiencing that your partner is too set in their ways, it's likely because there's a core belief about themselves that they're not good enough to some extent or another, and that setting in their ways allows them to stay in their comfort zone. And so you might feel like the person that's trying to like rip out that tree, and they're like, no. This is like, I love what I do. This is what I need to stay, quote unquote, set in their rigid ways. And that creates a lot of conflict and a lot of strife in relationships, especially when there is a partner that has a growth mindset. And on the screen, we'll have the production.
What's a tangible example with one of your... you want to put something up on the screen?
I was just going to say, I would love for the production team to put up the digital asset of the fixed mindset and the growth mindset trees, because underneath that, you can really see like, what is the difference between someone who is too set in their ways has a fixed mindset.
Well, so should we put that in the show notes for the people listening on audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so if you're listening on audio, click the link in the show notes to download the digital asset. This is one of the slides from the event. If you're on YouTube, production team, throw that up for everybody. Fixed versus growth mindset. Okay, so you have 16, 18, 20 something clients now. I have 26. Obviously, this is something we notice. We did an episode last time about fixed versus growth mindset, but this is self-concept, very similar. What's a tangible example that you've witnessed where one partner was holding on to an old identity?
The fixed mindset partner or the growth mindset partner?
Fixed.
Okay.
Whoever has a fixed self-concept was holding back the relationship. Just give us a tangible example of an existing client where that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was this one client. I've spoken about this client before and their partner, but essentially the fixed mindset that she experienced, her partner experienced, was that she is actually into growth to the extent that her partner is. And so her being set in her own ways is doing quote unquote growth on her own terms, which essentially looked like picking up a book and putting it down, not actually reading it. And so being stuck in her own ways and being too rigid in that, it created so much conflict because her growth-minded partner actually was reading the book, was actually tracking her habits.
What do you think are the indicators that your partner is a fixed self-concept?
I would say it's a very quick, when you try to help them do something, they don't want any help very quickly, and then they get defensive. That's where the shame response system kind of kicks in.
Okay. What else?
I would say we kind of alluded to this on our last episode. Goals are not something that fixed mindset individuals strive for. It's not even something that comes onto their consciousness. Someone who has a fixed mindset is usually so distracted by so many other things that they never focus in on any one thing.
One of them that came up for me when you were talking is the person with the more fixed self-concept tends to be more focused on the social world than the real world.
Yeah.
They usually have a bigger friend group. They usually care more about what their peers think of them.
Yeah.
And that usually they're more of a byproduct. And I used to say this all the time. We have something at Next Level University called the growth bucket and the relationship bucket.
Yeah.
And
we used that at Next Level Live, and I watched the room shift.
Really?
About
Nice.
people like really referring to that.
Nice.
And it's so big because you guys have made such a great distinction.
Thank you.
For people to understand and conceptualize.
So the growth and goals bucket is your relationships are a byproduct of your goals. Mm-hmm. So I met Emilia in pursuit of my goals, and you met me in pursuit of yours.
Yeah.
That's why this is a growth and goal-oriented relationship.
Right.
I've had a relationship in the past where it wasn't that way. I was actually out of alignment with my goals when I met the person. Makes sense.
So did you experience that?
Yes.
That
100%.
like set in their ways?
Without a question.
Overtly.
Absolutely. It was atrocious. But that's neither here nor there. So the relationship bucket is your goals are a byproduct of your relationships. In other words, when your friends get a new car, you want a new car. When your friends go to college, you want to go to college.
Yeah.
Versus you were going to go to college regardless of whether or not your friends do.
Yeah.
I think that's the indicator to me is it's from the inside out when you're going to do it regardless of whether or not anyone else does it.
So essentially you're talking about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivators.
Yeah.
People who have growth mindsets, they are intrinsically
more intrinsically.
motivated.
Yeah, they have both, but they are more intrinsically. The syntax is intrinsic then extrinsic.
Yep.
Versus fixed mindsetters tend to be extrinsically driven and then internally somewhat.
So based on your experience, Love, and for anyone who's listening, I think that this is really, really important for you specifically to answer. When it comes to the fear component, because when we really think about the problem with someone who is too set in their ways, one of the problems that you and I have identified is that the fear of failure in their partner's eyes. In your experience, what has been the biggest thing that most people who have fixed mindset don't want their growth mindset partners to know? Is it that fear alone, or is there something bigger that you've seen?
I think people who have a fixed mindset associate failure, being seen as a failure in the eyes of others, as losing credibility or love. And that triggers the danger. So what I've found is fascinating in my work is people who have a really fixed mindset or a fixed self-concept, they are not just afraid of failure, they're really afraid of being seen as a failure. Like bombing a speech is like the biggest fear they have because they associate if I'm not good, competent at this speech, people will find out I'm less than they think and then I'll be left behind.
Right.
Whereas you and I associate being too good with being left behind. So the fixed mindsetter's fear is I'm going to be left behind from the tribe and not belong because I'm not good enough.
Which means that like you can't develop the skill to be able to like stay with the growth train kind of thing.
Which is, again, the fixed mindset because they obviously could.
Yeah.
And
coming from a growth mindset.
Of course, right. But the thing is, the people who have a really growth mindset actually have the same issue, but from the opposite end, which is I'm not concerned about not keeping up. I'm concerned about being so much taller or so much better or so much more driven or so much more competent that I'm going to be ostracized from the tribe. So all of us are afraid to be ostracized from the tribe, but one of us is afraid of being too much. The other one's afraid of not being enough.
I think we're both, to translate that a little bit, we're both so terrified of disconnection.
Yeah, and being alone.
And fearful that your partner won't want to grow and won't want to get out of the rigid ways that they're in, to realize that they're actually more capable than their limiting beliefs are telling them, like to realize that, hey, failure is a part of the process.
Well, you've told me this in the past, and I think that this is something you're going to eventually do more research on, is belonging theory, where ultimately what we're all afraid of, I think, is the brain processes being ostracized from the tribe as death. Because in the past, that meant death from an evolutionary perspective. Now it doesn't. It just means no one likes you in high school, which is actually good for you, probably, because now you can actually focus on real goals. This is the best metaphor. We'll get out of here soon. In high school, I think everyone at some point falls for, I care more about what other people think of me than I think of me. And I think that some people grow out of that shit and they wake up from that nightmare and some people don't. Now, it's not a 1 or a 0. I still care what people think of me, but the syntax is I care what I think of me first, what you think of me second, what the listeners think of me third. And when you have a business, that gets complicated because what people think of you is your brand and your reputation, and now it's a whole thing. But a real growth mindsetter cares what they think of themselves first, then it ripples outward, whereas a fixed mindsetter cares more about what other people think of them, and they become this sort of byproduct of what other people want of them.
Yeah.
And and trust me, the moment you become a growth mindsetter, conscious couple, and start carving your own path and you will be ostracized. That's the thing, is you actually will.
There's some evolutionary truth to it, because
It's going to happen.
what happens when you break out of your quote unquote ways. Let's say, for example, this is something that's very common. We see all the time with relationships. There's one partner that is set in their ways on the holidays end, right? Like one partner really does love to go to the holiday parties, loves to do this with the family, all that happy jazz. And the other partner is like, do we really need to go to that thing? Like, we were on an RTC call 2 Saturdays ago now. We're going to have them this Saturday. So excited with them. And they were talking about like, yeah, for the last 17 years of our marriage, we used to go to this thing and we reevaluated, right? Talk about being set in your ways for 17 years. We reevaluated through this conversation. Do we really need to go to this holiday party? And the answer is no, but here is why, my logic as to like why we go there. And once he understood the why of his partner's seemingly set in her ways of going to that holiday for the family and all the reasons, he's like, that makes way more sense. So although it wasn't straight fixed mindset set in her ways, there was some logic underneath that. I'm sure there's more to the story based on your expression.
Ultimately what happens is you have to reassess this.
Yeah.
Does this make sense? This is why I always say Alan version 3.7. Your Emilia version 3.1. Correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my point of this is, the reason I say that is because, one, I'm a computer engineer, but the other reason is because imagine if Apple stopped making the iPhone better.
Yeah, we were talking about the Nimbus 2000.
Yeah.
Best yet ever. It's
Yeah,
like, until
2001. The Nimbus 2001 for the Harry Potter fans out there. But yeah, ultimately what this comes down to is like, if you are set in your ways, the only way to break out of that is to tear down the old identity willingly.
Yeah.
And then rebuild a new one. And I would leave it to you to use the 3 steps at the event that we can give to the listeners, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, one of the things, so if you've determined that, okay, you're listening to this, likely you're the person that's more on the growth end, right? The growth mindset end. And you've realized that your partner does have more of a fixed mindset, might be not in totality, but in a specific area in your relationship. And yes, that's holding you guys back. And you're realizing, okay, they're a little too set in their ways from my perspective. How do I, as the person that's growth-minded, help them to see what they're leaving on the table? Because ultimately that's what's happening. And how can I help them see the impact of this? So the first thing that we gave at the event was understand who is actually struggling with the fixed mindset. And I framed it that way because it is a struggle. And I know that as someone who has growth mindsets, it is difficult to relate to that struggle because, like Alan, you mentioned earlier, we have a very different struggle, but it's a struggle nonetheless. And when we can identify where that struggle is and why that struggle is in existence, when we can extend empathy over judgment, that's when we often find that there's something that's deep down underneath that, just like Riley.
How do you know you're not going to overly validate and make it okay? Like, okay, go into that.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say it's a very delicate dance because that's such a common area to just go all into, validate, make everything okay.
Yeah.
Don't hold any accountability to your partner. And that's at the expense of your boundaries, at the expense of your goals, at the expense of overall the relationship. So it is a very delicate dance. That's why this is very important work to do, not just alone, but with people who are guides.
Well, imagine you're a coach. You have to, be there to have empathy and challenge them to grow.
100%.
I feel like everyone's good at one or the other.
Yeah.
It's very few people are good at both.
Yeah.
I'm definitely better on the challenge.
I love that when we're in RTC, you see that I'm in the validating.
100%.
And so then you go extra into what you're already good at, which is the challenge.
Got to.
And so seeing that dance on RTC with clients is so important because they do get both from us.
Yeah, that's why RTC is so powerful.
It is. It really is.
Yeah,
so
you basically get you get the challenger who's going to like really get you to step the fuck up to reach your full potential. And you're going to get the empathetic, compassionate leader that can be in the pain with you as well.
For sure. And truly make an understanding of why that pain existed, not invalidating, but using that pain to your advantage. So many people never use their pain to their advantage. So for example, if you have a fixed mindset and your partner's too stuck in their way, they have pain underneath that. And trust me, as someone who is certified in trauma recovery work, there's always pain underneath a fixed mindset.
Wait, when you're saying, you just said if you have a partner with a fixed mindset. So
Correct.
if you have a fixed mindset, say that again.
If you have a fixed mindset, there's always pain underneath that. And
Okay.
as the growth-minded individual or the partner in the relationship that is the growth mindset, there's always pain that you likely didn't get to know.
Yeah.
And if you were to understand that pain, there would be more empathy instead of like, what the hell? Come on, change.
Kev always says, my business partner, he always says, you listen to some of these speakers that are motivational, and they'll say things like, well, just keep failing until you succeed. And he's like, he says, in your head, if you do have a fixed mindset, and he recommends the book Mindset by Carol Dweck,
Mm-hmm.
he said, I was 10 out of 10 fixed mindset before working with Alan. His words, not mine, 9 years ago. And he said, you would hear those speakers and be like, you don't get me. You and I makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect
I remember
sense.
hearing Will Smith when I was a kid. He's like, why would you ever be realistic? Why would you ever? You aim high, and if you and I get in the treadmill, you're getting off first or I'm going to die. I was like, yes, yes. And again, I'm not associating with Will Smith. I'm not necessarily a fan anymore. But the point I'm making is your entire perspective on life is completely different based on these two worldviews.
Based on, and that's what's so powerful about Inside Out. It literally visualizes how your raw data, your experiences, your episodic and semantic memory gets translated into these thought processes, which then your cognitive distortions tell you all of a sudden that you're not good enough. That ends up becoming a belief, for lack of better words. You have this belief tree that is, I can't do anything, I'm incapable, I'm not enough. And that is what determines how many goals you shoot for, the goals that you do or don't shoot for. Like it just determines your life, and life becomes deterministic
Yeah, it's a
because of
self-imposed
that.
cage.
And so as a result, your goals in this conscious couple relationship, like there's one partner that's looking that up. So step number 2 is name the goal.
Real quick, I just want to jump in here for a second. So for anyone out there watching or listening, the Riley, the character in Inside Out 2, is a fixed mindset. For sure. Transforming into a growth mindset.
Correct.
But you and
see
I
that
didn't
struggle.
identify with her as a character at all because I never felt not good enough for that. So, but I want to make that clear that movie is the best representation of transformation for someone who does feel not good enough.
Right. Because here's a quick scene. If it was a growth mindset, she'd hit the penalty box, and then instead of anxiety taking over, she would say, okay,
What am I going to do differently?
I understand
Let's
this.
go back to the drawing board.
Literally that entire time that she spent in the penalty box, as soon as her
Would have been
ice-
re-strategizing.
Exactly.
Yep,
Exactly. So I love that you mentioned that. So to that end, any couple that's struggling with that, like, and you realize that your partner's too set in your ways, at the end of the day, you need to name the goal. Like growth partners, this is where courage really comes in. Name the goal that this fixed mindset is holding back. When you can do that without being attacking, blaming, criticizing, judgmental, all that. I can't say without because that's not like forever, right? But you have to name the
The goal would
goal.
be buying a house.
Yeah.
The goal could be having a new career, applying to this job, having children, saving for college for your children, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Any goal in the future. The key is it's not a goal if it's not in the future.
I like it.
All things are created twice, once in the mind and then once in reality. That's a goal.
Exactly. So when you locate what that goal is and what the fixed mindset is holding back, and you vulnerably express that impact of like, hey babe, like I know we were really shooting for a house in the next year, and I'm really struggling over here because I really, what I'm seeing is that you're not actually doing the budgeting that we agreed to. And now I feel like I'm all alone in this. And realistically, if we look at the numbers, they're not matching up to what we need a year from now.
What I've found that works really well is we're not going to achieve the goal. And that's okay if you don't want the goal. But if you want the goal, then we need to change. And that takes tremendous courage because you feel like an asshole.
The growth person.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
you feel like such a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And
What's the third
so
one?
at the end of the day, the last step is to create a personal growth plan.
Nice.
PGP, Ellen and I call it.
Personal growth plan.
Yeah.
PGP.
PGP. So essentially that is something that is allowing you to actually transform from the fixed to the growth mindset and using essentially all of those 3 steps that we just talked about to get your partner, not just get your partner, but have you two be out of the quote unquote ways that you both have identified your partner is to set in.
Okay, so I want to teach all of our listeners real quick before we get out of here how to lose all their friends. All right, step 1, go to party. Step 2, ask everyone about their personal growth plan.
Excuse me, I'd like to give an announcement. It's actually more an invitation, but I have an announcement to make.
Who here wants to volunteer, raise your hands only, to share with us your personal growth plan? And see everyone's reaction, and if you don't get kicked out of the front door,
or
you're in
things thrown at you.
Things through.
Let us know the party.
Let us know the party. We want to be there. No, but seriously, don't do that. What you should do, though, is get a personal growth plan. There's a book called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth that talks about building a personal growth plan. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Relationship Talks Coaching. We do a hybrid model. Shout out to the clients that just started. Yes. So it's Emilia, female to female coaching, and then I'm coaching the man. And then we do bi-weekly sessions with all 4 of us. It is unbelievable. Most powerful thing that I have ever done personally in the last 11 years in this space. So self-improvement, personal growth, personal development. We're going to leave you with this. What is you and your partner's personal growth plan? If you are like, we don't have one, that the only wrong answer is to not have one. Okay? Books, courses, coaching, therapy. I have a therapist. You have a therapist. We have courses we take all the time. I just bought a $1,500 course that I finished in 3 days.
Emotional intelligence.
But you renovate a house because you want it to be better. You have to renovate your house as well. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
The only thing is the invitation. Exactly how to roadmap your future together is on March 19th at 6 p.m. Shout out. We have, or PSA, we have changed the time for Relationship Talks events from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that we can make sure that more people are actually able to make it, because we've gotten too many people saying, hey, I'm still at work. I really, really want to come. Do you guys record these? And the answer is no, we don't record them. Private. So private, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exactly how to roadmap your future together, which we'll give you a little sneak peek of the PGP. But to have yours personalized to you is going to be Relationship Talks Coaching. PGP means personal growth plan.
Thank you. PSA, public service announcement, PGP, RTC. We got a lot of acronyms going on. Okay. Thank you all so much. If you guys have been listening for a long time, I know several of you have, and you've never been to one of these events, that is the next step. We keep them private for a reason, because that's where you can talk about the real stuff that you're not maybe going to tell the world about. Okay, so the taboo topics, this is what we dig into. It's not recorded. It's totally private. No AI bots. Nobody's recording, no screen caps. So totally private for a reason. Engage as much or as little as you'd like. Relationship Talks events. We've done 56. They are magnificent. They're so good. Okay, we're going to keep going with or without you, so join us. Nice. Before we get out of here, it's not always about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please check the show notes to connect with us and say hello on social media.
If you and your partner resonated with this episode, please leave us a 5-star review at the link in the show notes and share this with someone you love. Until next time, it's not about you or me, it's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.